This is Join Us in France, episode 226. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and I'm glad to be with you today to talk about France. On today's episode, Bridie Reed chats with me about eating vegan in Paris. As you probably know, French people are meat eaters, and I've complained about this on this podcast because we don't have enough options at restaurants for folks who eat plant-based diets. But there is hope for us yet. Paris is on its way to become a vegan foodie center with a surprising number of choices. There are also a lot of people who are working very hard to adapt great French food to vegan diets because it's catching on even in France. I'm surprised. It's very good. The trouble is, what do you do when you're traveling? Well, it's getting pretty easy, especially in Paris and in other French large cities too. Bridie she does tours for vegans not just in France, but in other places as well. And she will list several wonderful options for you to try in Paris. And I'm sure it will leave you wanting to try a vegan camembert. I definitely want to try it. I'm intrigued. Show notes and photos for this episode are on joinusinfrance.com/226. Join Us in France is brought to you by Patreon supporters and Addicted to France, the small group tour company for people who want to tour France with friends from this podcast. Check out our upcoming half-day walking tours on May 7th and 8th. In May 2019, and you can see them on addictedtofrance.com. Bonjour, Bridie, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, Annie. I'm so happy to be here.
It's lovely to talk to you. Today we are talking about being vegan in France, and I talk to you because you actually own a vegan tour company. So exciting. What's the name of your company and what do you do?
We are called World Vegan Travel, and we take vegans and vegan curious on incredible, unforgettable, and kind of fancy schmancy, luxurious tours in some locations around the world. We're still quite small, so we go to Thailand, Paris and Alsace, Rwanda, interestingly, and Thailand. So they're the 4 places, but we've got plans for other places too. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
I've been a fan of your podcast for, I think, about 4 or 5 months now. I've been listening and caught up on all of the back episodes.
Oh, goodness. You're one of these crazy people who goes back and listens to the back episodes.
Yeah, it's really, really enjoyable.
Well, if you like to hear about France, I guess that's the big draw. And lots of people tell me that that's what they do. And I feel very privileged that they find the show interesting enough to go do that.
Well, yeah, definitely for me, that's for sure.
So on today's episode, we're talking about eating vegan in France because you're vegan. Mm-hmm. And there are vegan people in my life as well. So I have realized that it can be a little bit tricky to eat vegan in France. It's not a very popular thing yet. It might get there, but, French people were very slow. So I would love to hear about your experiences and what you did to be able to eat vegan in France.
Sure. Well, I've been coming to France on a fairly regular basis for 25 years, I would say. And I've been certainly vegetarian for all of that time. And I became vegan 10 years ago. So I've traveled a lot as a vegetarian in France and as a vegan in France through the many visits that I've had. And, when I started coming as a vegetarian, there really wasn't much at all in restaurants and things like that. So, whenever I would go to a restaurant, there would always be something like salade chèvre chaud or coq monsieur with sans jambon without the ham or something like that.
Yes.
And then when I became, so that was always my sort of go-to things when I would go out to eat.
Sure.
But then, I became vegan and, it was more challenging. Mm-hmm. However, I'm happy to say that things really are changing. Like every time we come back to France, or certainly Paris, we come back every 18 months or so, or just every 12 months. Things are easier and easier and easier. And particularly in Paris, there's a lot of options. Now, I'm not going to say that there are going to be vegan options on every single menu in every single restaurant.
Oh, no.
Although that is happening more and more. There are certainly lots and lots of vegan restaurants, vegan grocery stores, vegetarian places with lots of vegan options. So things are getting a little bit better, and I would love to share some of those with your listeners today.
Wonderful. Yeah, I have found that there is, in large cities, there are choices. The problem is as soon as you leave Paris and big cities like, Lyon, Marseille, Toulouse, Bordeaux, I'm not sure. I would assume Bordeaux is the same. There might be a few others. But the further away you get from large cities, the more your choices as a vegan get to almost zero, to the point where you really ought to just plan on renting an Airbnb and cooking for yourself. And then you can eat whatever you want.
Yes, I would agree with that. There is a really great app. I don't know if you know about it or your sort of vegetarian, vegan listeners know about, but it's called Happy Cow.
Yes.
And it's this fantastic app, and you can use it wherever you are in the world pretty much. And I think there's another one in France called Veggie Resto. And you can basically put where you are into the app, and it will show you where the nearest vegan or vegetarian or veg-friendly restaurants are. And, even when you're in the countryside, you can often get a surprise. Like I was so shocked when we were in the Dordogne. That's right. There was two interesting places in the Dordogne, but there was this one. I've just found out about this one little vegan restaurant through Happy Cow in the Dordogne in Saint-Léon-sur-Verzère on the Verzère River.
Right.
And it's just this little vegan restaurant in this tiny little village.
We
sometimes you can be surprised.
Right. When I did a tour of the Dordogne last September, we drove past it several times, going back and forth, but it was always closed.
Okay.
So it was late September. Maybe they had closed early for the season. This is something that happens a lot in the Dordogne. Restaurants open when the tourist season is in full bloom, and as soon as the tourists leave, the restaurants close. Even French restaurants, even regular French restaurants. But this one was closed every time, and I paid attention because it matters to me. I eat mostly vegetarian, vegan when I'm making vegan. But if there's nothing else, I'll eat whatever they give me. It's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. But for people who are strict vegan, it's really hard, because even if there is a restaurant, it might not be closed. It might not be open when you think it should be open.
Yes.
So do check on that. I would really say if you are going to be outside of large cities, either if you find options on Happy Cow, which is an app that we have used quite a bit, then call them to make sure they're open, because you have to assume that they won't be, kind of thing. I mean, some of these places, they only open when they have groups or when there's events or when there's lots of tourists or things like that. So be a little bit suspicious.
Yeah. I think that's very sage advice. I have also been stung in that area before.
Yes. And, and it's very odd because, especially in the Dordogne, they are so... they have done so well for the last 100 years with tourism, just selling the normal Dordogne hits, so the duck, the cassoulet, all the local big hits, that if you even say to them, how come there's nothing vegetarian on your menu? They look at you like, what is wrong with you? Like, of course, there's nothing. People don't eat vegetarian, and and so I'm French, so I can have these conversations with people, and just push back a little bit. But for visitors, it's not easy.
Yes, I have gone around the Dordogne before and just sort of had like a green salad with a cheeseless pizza, for example. But, it's nice. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's not
nutritious,
hugely exciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting or very nutritious.
But there are lots of exciting places and exciting options in France if you're vegan, for sure. It's certainly not barren.
Now that we've shared all the bad news, let's share the good news.
Yes, yeah. Well, there are some really fun vegan things to do, particularly in Paris. And, I can imagine, like, even for the non-vegan listeners that might be listening to this podcast, maybe they've got family members who are vegan, and it could be really, really cool to know about these things. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a couple of companies, and we did this when we were just last in Paris. We actually did a vegan walking tour of the Marais. Mm. So they're vegan food tours of Paris, and we had a bit of a sort of a tight amount of time, so it would have been longer, but it was about 2.5 hours or so. And they actually do like 3 tours around Paris, and they actually have food tours in Lyon and in Bordeaux as well. So lovely people that run this. So we did the Marais one because our hotel was situated in Les Halles, and they took us through to the Marché des Enfants Rouges, which I believe is the oldest market in Paris or something.
I doubt that.
No? Okay. No. It could be that my memory of the information they gave me is not wrong.
Listen, every markets in Paris all fight for titles like that. It's a big deal. It's a touristy thing, especially Marché des Enfants Rouges. It's a big touristy market. Right. Lots of visitors. You hear more English than French. That's a sign. And so I doubt it, because the very first markets were near Les Halles. There's always been markets. I mean, in front of where Notre Dame is today. Before Notre Dame was there were markets, because that's the place where people would cross the river. So that's where the foot traffic was. So that's where most of the commerce would take place. There were wooden bridges where people would set up shop, and there were stores. Just like in Florence today, you have the bridge with the businesses, the stores on top of the right. Well, that's how all bridges used to be in the Middle Ages, and those wooden bridges in Paris have long been gone. But that's where most likely the earliest markets were, and then Louis XI moved them to Les Halles. And that was a long time ago. So anyway, sorry about that. That's just historical.
No. That's interesting. Really interesting. Thanks for that. Yeah. So it was a really cute little market, but they also had a vegan food stall at the market as well, and we enjoyed like delicious pumpkin soup. This was like about 9 days before Christmas. So it was, it was all nice and cozy, and we had our mug of soup and we were walking around with it. So that was really, really nice. And also on that tour, we went to Arceo, which is a little vegan leather handbag store. which was really fun. Like 7 of us, we went and bought handbags there. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's
And
Arsayo. So that's Arsayo. And all of these names that you're mentioning, I will put on the website so people can refer back to it. But there's one name that you mentioned that I didn't catch earlier. That was the name of the French app for vegan.
I think it's called Veggie Resto.
So VEGORESTO.
Correct.
Maybe? I'll look it up and put it on the website.
I believe so. If it's not an app, it's certainly a website. But I'm pretty sure I've got that correctly. I mean, I usually use Happy Cow, but Veggie Resto is the French-specific one, so that might have some better stuff on there. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Oh, although French people participate. I mean, French people add stuff all the time to Happy Cow. At least the French people around me were vegan, so they update the stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I interrupted you. You were talking about the Arsayo boutique.
Yes, so they do these fantastic leather handbags that really aren't that expensive for what they are. They're handbags, but they're sort of like nice urban backpacks and really, really very comfortable on your back. And when you touch them, they really have a very sort of leather-like texture. So they're really quite nice bags, and they're all different colors.
But obviously they're not leather.
No, they're not leather, but they're very much look like leather and feel like leather. So, that's really nice. They also have purses as well. And then just around the corner from that, we went to Mon Épicerie where they had organized for us, the Vegan Food Tours of Paris had organized like a vegan wine and cheese tasting, which was amazing. Like, I don't know whether some of your visitors, your listeners would know that lots of wine is not, completely vegan because of the way that they filter the wine. Some vegans feel very strongly about that and they'll deliberately choose vegan wine. Some don't worry about that one so much because it's such a tiny, tiny ingredient. But
I don't know of any ingredient that would make wine not vegan. What is it?
Yes. Well, it's not really an ingredient. It's more like it's how they filter the wine. So it's in lots of beers and wines, and it's called isinglass, which is actually, it's not so nice to talk about perhaps, but it's actually fish bladders that's used to filter the wine. And then also egg whites can be used to filter the wine as well. But
I have never ever heard about this. Wow.
Yes, it's really interesting. And it's very difficult to know if you're really strict about this as a vegan. And I will tell you, I'm a very passionate vegan, but I'm not that strict about these kinds of things. It's just used in the manufacturing process, and it's not in the ingredients. So you can't look at the bottle and know that whether it's got isinglass in or not. So, you can either use another app. There's one called Barnivore, which means, you can check and you can see whether a wine is vegan or not, or you have to call the manufacturer. But, it's not something most vegans worry about, but it's always nice when you can have vegan wine.
Right.
So, yes.
I didn't know that was a thing. See? I learned something today.
Beer as well. That's also another one where they use these products. Anyway, so
so you went to the Mon Épicerie, and that's where you had the wine tasting and all of that tasting.
The cheese tasting. And I'm so
vegan cheese. Wow.
Cheese. Yes. I have to say, I'm so excited to be able to tell people that France has got some amazing vegan cheeses happening. They have lots of different brands, and they even have vegan camembert these days. Truly, with like the white rind.
Wow.
And I would be very interested to know what you think of it, Annie, because
I've never seen it anywhere. I would buy it. That is something I would definitely buy to try it, Oh,
I would love to know what you think about it because, when I used to live in France when I was a couple of times in my life. And I used to eat a lot of cheese then. I was just vegetarian then. And, maybe my memory is not so good, but it tasted the same to me. So there are some really amazing different vegan cheeses, including, like sliced cheeses that you can put on like a vegan croque monsieur or grated cheese to put on pizzas, things like that. But, what was really exciting was the camembert and some other really amazing cheeses. They're not cheap because they're nut-based, but they're certainly really, really lovely.
Right. I have made a faux ricotta cheese with nuts, and that was pretty good for, to do lasagna. That was actually... Yes. It didn't taste like regular lasagna with cheese because I still eat that too. So I can eat the real one day and the fake one the other day. So to me, the memory doesn't fade quite that fast. But it's a different flavor, but it's very good. So,
Yeah. Give it a try. I mean, this camembert that I'm talking about has actually been aged using the same bacteria to grow that rind as ones made out of cow's milk.
Yeah, you'd need the bacteria too. But is that vegan if there's bacteria? I mean, I guess there's nothing you can do. There's bacteria everywhere.
Yes, bacteria is vegan. We eat that one.
Yes.
Yes. So that was sort of our vegan food tour that we had there, and it was just so lovely. Like, she took us around a few little places around the Marais and told us a little bit about their history. So it's kind of a cool thing that you can do in Paris for sure.
Right. So it's a walking tour plus a vegan food tour.
Correct.
That's great. And so this place, Mon Épicerie, did they have like a separate little spot where you could sit and taste, or was it more like in the middle of the store?
It was sort of in the middle of the store.
Okay.
So there was a few of us. So they just created this table and sort of covered it with lovely sort of vegan champagne and cheeses and all sorts of things. Yeah, it was really lovely. And in these vegan grocery stores, of which there are like 5 in Paris now, you can really enjoy a lot of those French traditional things made vegan. So unbelievably, they now have a vegan salmon. Yes, that you can try, which I thought was quite interesting because I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Annie, that salmon is quite a traditional thing to have at Christmas time. Is that right?
Not in my family, but why not?
No?
Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. But so you can have salmon that's vegan, and they also have a vegan foie gras as well. You can buy in these stores.
Wow.
And they even have some incredible vegan Nutellas. They have ice creams. So
Nutella you can like vegan chocolate paste you can find lots of places.
That's pretty mainstream now.
Right, and you would go find that sort of thing at a store that says bio.
Right.
BIO. That means organic. Or organic stores will also sell meat and things like that, but they always stock vegan options. That's where, if I need vegan cheese or something like that, that's where I would go get it, at a bio store.
Yes. But these vegan grocery stores, they just have absolutely everything.
Everything is vegan, yeah.
Bio stores are really good, but these vegan stores, they have so much stuff. It's kind of exciting. So what we often do is we'll go to the vegan stores when we're in Paris and sort of stock up on stuff, knowing that, if we're going into the countryside, we can go to a bio store, but, we'll make sure that we've got some fun foods. Yeah. Some special things there. So that's just a little technique that we
that's great. Yeah, because I don't know that you have you'll find fully vegan grocery stores anywhere but Paris. Maybe I'm wrong. I will check. If I find some, I will put them on the website. I will check. But
big cities now have them. And I was very excited because we're hoping to move to France later this year. And we're hoping to move to Annecy. And we were thrilled to find out that there's a vegan grocery store opening in Annecy, which is not a big city.
No.
So and Mulhouse in Alsace also has a vegan grocery store.
Oh, nice.
So even in smaller towns, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yes. So another thing that I wanted to tell your listeners about is the vegan afternoon tea at the Shangri-La Hotel in Paris. Do you know about that one?
I do not.
Okay, so we just sort of stumbled across a press release when we were Googling vegan Paris, and I could not believe it. So we had to go and check it out. So the Shangri-La is a very fancy hotel overlooking the Eiffel Tower close to Place Trocadero. Mm-hmm. And the most expensive rooms there are 20,000 euros a night.
Oof,
it's very expensive.
Yes.
We didn't stay there, but we did have a vegan afternoon tea there. And that is every day from, I think it's about 3:00 until 7. And it's like like a regular sort of high tea, afternoon tea thing with lots of cute little sandwiches and scones and vegan cream and all of that kind of thing. It also has a hot drink. You can pay a little bit extra and have champagne, and also some incredible patisserie. And depending on the time, like we were a bit of a bigger group, so we were in this sort of elevated sort of restaurant overlooking this beautiful lounge where lovely live music was playing. So it's really, really lovely thing to do. And you have to book because it's always full, especially at the weekend. So you need to contact them and make a reservation.
Sounds good.
Price is not cheap. If I'm remembering correctly, it's something like 48 euros and 60 euros if you have champagne as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not cheap. It's certainly something a little bit special, but I am sure if you treated a vegan friend, they would be so excited.
They would love that. Yes, of course they would. I forgot to ask you with the Mon Épicerie, when you did the cheese tasting and all that, was that also something you had booked in advance, or can you just walk in and ask for a tasting and pay for it right there and then?
No, I believe that Vegan Food Tours of Paris organised that for us. Okay. So that was part of our itinerary with them. So they called ahead and made the booking and arranged it all. And
okay.
Yes. So I think it's just one of the stops on their tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. What else did you enjoy?
Okay, so in Paris, there are now quite a few vegan patisserie places that do the most amazing pain au chocolat and patisserie generally. So these cute little tarts and croissants, and they're really, really very good. Like they're very flaky and very sort of crispy, just like you would kind of expect. So there's a couple of places like that called VG Patisserie and Cloud Cakes, and they're both in sort of the Marais area, and they are really, really quite
VG Patisserie?
incredible. Yes.
So how do you spell that?
And Cloud Cakes. VG, just capital V, capital G.
Oh, okay.
And then patisserie.
Okay.
And then Cloud Cakes is another one. So often, you have to pay extra for hotel breakfasts. And often, they're not very good for vegans. So, something that you can do is head over there and get, a croissant with jam and a pain au chocolat with your coffee, and you can sit down and have it there.
So they have some tables as well.
Yes, they have tables. Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I must say that vegan pastries in general usually turn out really good. I'm surprised. In general, I would say that I haven't been sold on vegan cheese, but vegan pastries, good, really,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. They really are. And, if you head out to these patisserie places, I mean, they're not quite as fancy looking as, the absolute best patisserie shops in Paris. The ones that are absolute standouts, but they're still very good indeed.
They have to make do with a much smaller clientele, obviously, so they can't be lavish on the on the shop that they go to. I mean, that just makes sense to me.
Exactly. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. So another one of our favorite restaurants, and this place has been around for quite a long time. It's called Le Potager de Marais in the Marais area as well. Have you heard of that restaurant, Annie?
No, until I read your notes, I hadn't heard. I wonder if it's really called Le Potager de Marais or Le Potager du Marais.
I'm just looking at those notes now. It's du Marais. I'm pretty sure it's du Marais.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, very good.
Yes. And that place has been around for quite a long time, since our first visit to Paris as vegans. And it used to be vegetarian, and then when they found out about this new range of cheeses, they were able to completely veganize their menu. So now their menu is completely vegan, and it's very sort of cute, sort of French country classics, sort of made vegan. So, for example, they have this really very good French onion soup, like a bœuf bourguignon, which is made out of really big chunks of seitan,
right?
Which is like wheat gluten. I don't know if your listeners will be very familiar with that, but it's like a vegan meat, and
it does take a lot of flavors, so I'm not surprised. I was going to ask if it was bœuf bourguignon, where the beef is a mushroom, or seitan, because I think either one would work, except that the mushroom would probably add more mushroomy flavor, which you don't normally have in the bourguignon.
Right. No, this was big chunks of seitan, so sort of reminiscent of bœuf bourguignon, actually.
French onion soup would be really easy to make vegan. I mean, all you have to do is switch the butter. You use a vegan butter, you're good to go, right? Because that's the only thing that's... Yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to be super strict, because I use a little sherry in my onion soup. Maybe you would have to find vegan sherry, but if you're not strict about that, then you could just... Yeah. So it's so the French onion soup is really nice, and they even have like a crème brûlée as well, which is quite fun. All sort of crystallized on the top, where you have to bash into it with your spoon. It was really lovely. So is this one, since it's an older restaurant, is it a fancier looking restaurant?
No, it's not fancy looking at all. It's just really cute and cozy inside, and it's quite small. Like, it's one of those French restaurants where there's very little elbow room between tables, which I think is really lovely. So
that's par for the course in France.
Like checkered. Exactly, and there's checkered tablecloths on there. The service is really great. That place, and in fact, all of these places, you're very, very wise to book because they're often very, very busy. So I would recommend booking them out. But yeah, we're really, really cool. Definitely worth checking out. Yeah. And another place that we really enjoy going to as a vegan, and I think it would be very familiar to some of your American listeners, is Le Pain Quotidien as well. Which is like a cafe restaurant, of which I believe there are many, many locations in the city. And they have tons and tons of marked vegan options for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well,
and they
that's very
have
nice.
like soy milk and almond milk for coffees. They have blueberry muffins, avocado toast. They even have like a big vegan brunch, which is this big plate with about 15 different things on it. It's really, really good.
So Pain Quotidien, what part of Paris is that in?
I believe that Le Pain Quotidien is like a chain.
Is it a chain? Okay, I was hesitating. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the one we went near was near Place Vendôme, I think.
Okay.
But there are many. There are many in Paris.
Very nice. That's good that they have vegan options. This is my cause, is to tell every place I go to is add something vegetarian and something vegan. You don't have to have your whole menu, but there are more and more French families where somebody is vegan or vegetarian. So have something for them to eat. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful you're doing that.
Yeah, and most places, they are open to that, so long as I'm in a big city. But it's when I go outside where they go, like, well, I don't even know what that means, like, blah. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because, you don't have to be vegan or vegetarian to enjoy eating that kind of food. Like,
of course,
like you said earlier, you're not vegan or vegetarian, but you like to eat, vegan and vegetarian sometimes. And, it's often a healthier choice. So people that want to eat food that's a little bit lighter or a little bit sort of, healthier perhaps, then it's great to have those options.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I just have a couple of other ones to share, I think. We were really lucky because we were in Paris during the Christmas market season. And there was actually a vegan Christmas market that was happening on the day that we were there. So we went over to check that out as well. And it was at a place called La Recyclerie.
Yeah.
Do you know this place?
I do not. It sounds like it's a recycling center. On the face of it, I wouldn't go, but...
Right. Well, it's a really cool sort of place. We were sort of out the back, which was where the vegan market was, and then they had mulled wine like vin chaud and lots of vegan snacks and little gifts and things like that. But it's not like a bric-a-brac store. It's really sort of like a center, and there's lots of restaurants inside there as well. But everything's sort of upcycled furniture and things. It's really, really cool place to check out, and it's on the side of a railway line. It's really cool.
So what part of Paris is that in?
Market. Oh, crikey! I'll have to check, but I think it's on the north part of Paris, but I probably should just check that for you because I could be sending you down the garden path.
Yeah, I'll check it, and if I don't find it, I'll ask you to let me know.
Sure. So that's kind of all of my sort of really special things that I did on my most recent trip to Paris, and but it was really good, and I just love the opportunity to tell the listeners that even in smaller towns now, when you go to supermarkets, there's tons and tons of vegan options as well, like ice creams, yogurts, cheeses, vegan meats, and things like that. So
yes.
It's very easy to self-cater now. Even in the supermarkets, it's really good.
Yes, and the more upscale and organic you go, the more likely you are to find vegan options. So the cheap grocery stores, places like Lidl Price, those places, they hardly have anything that would be vegan, right? But Because even if it doesn't have chunks of meat in there, it's not made, it's got eggs or it's got cream or it's got something that vegans wouldn't eat. But if you go to a bio store or if you go to the more upscale grocery stores, they usually have, because, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not going to be offending anybody by saying this, but vegan is a bit of a fad, and just like all of these fads, they attract people with more money. And so
it's true.
And so people who are, we have a lot of people in France who don't have a ton of money and they can't afford to eat like that. So that's so if you can afford it and that's what you do, then go to the more upscale grocery store and the more upscale restaurants. They will typically have vegan options. It's the cheapo stuff. Now, some of the places where you always find something that's at least vegetarian and very often vegan is like in Le Marais, you're going to have all the falafel places. Right?
Yes, good point. Yes. And there's some burger places too.
Right. So if it's halal or kasher, how do you say? How do you say that in English? Jewish people, they eat kosher. Sorry, kosher. Kasher. Kosher. So if it's kosher or halal, then very often you have at least vegetarian options and very often also vegan options. And those are all over the Marais. You don't even have to do anything special. Also, at the grocery store, I've noticed that sometimes in the fresh product, the stuff that's refrigerated, not frozen, they will have like falafel that are vegetarian. So maybe there's some egg in there or something. But if you go to the frozen section, they have some that are frozen and vegan. So if you're at a regular French grocery store, don't give up. If you know you want falafel and you want vegan, check out the frozen section, because very often they do this because they don't sell that much of it. But if it's frozen, longer shelf life, it's easier for them to stock that kind of item in the frozen section.
Of course. And, to your point about like these sort of fancier vegan things that are sort of coming out now and that cheese, for example, that camembert cheese that I mentioned, it's not cheap because it's nut-based, but if you want to eat vegan on a budget, it is possible to do, but you have to really sort of diet, focus your eating around, beans and lentils. So, something that you could do if you were self-catering would be to buy a can or a jar of lentils and some lettuce and some vegetables or something like that. So, certainly these small specialty products, these things are much more expensive. But you can also do it cheaply as well.
Most of the people I know who are vegan, they're students and they do fine, Unfortunately, too many of them just eat pasta all the time. And I yell at them. I'm like, that's not healthy. You shouldn't just eat that every night. But I guess students do that anyway. Like, what are you going to do?
That's true.
But it is a bit of a challenge when people first go vegan for them to be vegan and healthy. Because if all you do is you start putting coconut oil in everything, well, I'm sorry, but that's really bad for you. So, you just have to be a little bit careful how you adapt these recipes, because I've really worked on adapting some recipes, and and I'm like, I don't want to use this ingredient. And of course, that's what, especially the coconut oil. Well, it's not really an oil. It's like a paste in France. You buy it in a jar. And,
yes.
And the same way you buy it in the jar, it crystallizes like that in your gut. It's not a healthy product, but it's just something that makes it taste better. So you have to. But I think if you get good at cooking your own vegan stuff, you can eat like a king. I mean, it's wonderful, but you have to be willing to cook, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a bit of a learning curve for sure and at first, but if you keep at it and you practice, then it becomes easier.
And you had some wonderful suggestions for Le Marais. I hadn't thought of it. I'm going to Paris in February. I will check some of those out because I haven't tried specifically to look at any of those, so that will be fun.
I would love to hear what you think about them. I would love your honest review.
Well, at first, when a member of your family tells you I'm going vegan, it's a little bit startling. I'm 53, I'm French. There's some things that I don't want to rock the boat too much. So that seemed like a bit much.
Sure.
But I thought, I'm going to go along with this and see. And you know what? It's really not bad. Yeah. You can adapt. It's not the end of the world. You won't go hungry. You'll be able but you will spend more time cooking. If you want to do it right, you have to spend more time cooking, which,
Yep. Yeah.
It's not necessarily
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Not necessarily a bad thing. So overall, anywhere you go in France, if you rent an apartment or if you have a place where you can cook for yourself, then obviously French grocery stores will have lots of vegetables, lots of pastas, lots of nuts, lots of beans, lots of all of that stuff. Even if they don't have
soy
the seitan, right?
Yeah.
The soy milk you find everywhere. The almond milk you find everywhere. That's pretty easy to find. Again, if you go to the bio section of the grocery store, okay, that's where they put this kind of stuff. The more specialized products like the seitan and the tofu and the faux meats that are in America. I was in America over Christmas. Well, you could buy things that look like chicken nuggets and they were vegan.
Yes.
I have never seen that in France at this point.
I was in a hypermarket, Hypermarché, outside of Bayeux in Normandy.
Yeah.
And I just could not believe what they had there. Even with the vegan meats, they even had like vegan bacon and lots of different kinds of burgers. Like I was just absolutely shocked.
So you never know and it's possible that it's just the manager of this store is vegan or has a family member who's vegan, and so they care to order the stuff in. Other places, they won't have it. So you just have to look, see what you find, But I was quite surprised in Spain. We went to, so this one is, I'm still not sure what we ate. But so we go to this restaurant and some of us ordered non-vegan options and others ordered this vegan chicken dish. And I tasted it and I was like, this is chicken. This is not. This is chicken. There's no way this is fake. And so we had this debate. So there was like 6 of us. I was with cousins and family members, whatever. And everybody tasted it. And most of us are not vegan, right? And so we're like,
sure.
This is chicken. So we called the waiter over and we said, are you sure this is vegan? It was really like weirdly close, And he assured us, yes, this is vegan. Don't worry, we wouldn't feed you chicken. I'm like, okay. So I took his word for it. But sometimes when I think back on it, I'm like, I'm not sure. I think they ate chicken. I don't know. I don't care. Myself, I don't care. But
food technology is really coming along these days, and they're trying to make it as realistic as possible so that non-vegans will will eat that product than rather than the chickens, the meat from chicken. So that there's a lot of incentive for these companies to try to create something that's really realistic. And also, a lot of non-vegans will ask, well, why do you want to have vegan bacon and vegan chicken if you're vegan? And it's like, well, we didn't stop eating this most of the time. We didn't stop eating this thing because we didn't like the taste. We chose to go vegan for other reasons.
Right.
So if we can have something that has the same taste and meets our same traditions, and, our favorite things from our childhood and stuff like that, but it doesn't come from an animal, then we are very excited to try it. And, I won't eat those kinds of products every single day. I prefer to center my diet around whole foods. But, once in a while or for something special, then I'm like, yeah, bring it on. I want that.
Oh, for Thanksgiving, it would have been so easy. Thanksgiving, we had 2 vegans at the table, plus a third who was like, maybe I'll eat vegan. I'm not sure. Well, it would have been easy for me to just go buy, faux meat. I would have gladly done that if it had been an option, but it wasn't an option. So we ended up making a kind of a Wellington with mushroom and nuts and things. And it was delicious. It was very good. And most of the non-vegan people ate some as well. And they were like, wow, this is delicious.
That's nice.
And it's not, it doesn't taste like anything else, but it's really good, you know, and it's beautiful because it's, I mean, a Wellington is a beautiful dish. So,
yes.
Yeah, it was very good for a festive event. So,
yeah. And a lot of these vegan grocery stores, they will deliver online to you. So you can get anything and they'll deliver it to your little village outside of Toulouse as well.
Is that right? Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Online delivery. It's quite amazing.
I will have to look it up. Okay, I'm going to turn on my Googling fingers and find it. Excellent. Cool. Thank you so much, Bridie.
You are welcome.
You are Bridie. Yes. You're not Brigda. You're Bridie. Okay, now I think I got it. Hopefully I won't make that mistake again.
No problem.
Thank you so much for talking with me. It has been a lot of fun.
You are welcome.
And yes. My philosophy in life is accommodate as many people as you can. We're all we're all on a different journey, on a different path. And I have removed a lot of meat from my life over the years, and I'm no worse for wear. But it doesn't matter where along that spectrum you are. I would love for you to be able to find some good food when you're in France.
Well, I'm happy to report that you certainly can.
Excellent. Thank you, Bridie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Au revoir.
Bye. Au revoir.
Thank you, Keenan Shane Walper, for pledging to support the show on Patreon this week. And my thanks also to all the other patrons who support the show month after month. Thank you so much for giving back. Would you buy me a coffee if we met in real life? You can do that by supporting the show on Patreon for as little as $2 per month. Visit patreon.com/join us, Patreon, to see the different reward tiers. And thank you so much for giving back. I'm itching to tell you about my new audio tour project, but I will wait. I will wait until the first one is released before I brag about it. Because sometimes I've talked about doing things and I never complete them, but this one I will complete because I'm loving it. It's so fun to do. I'm spending a lot of my time on it, and this is something I really enjoy doing. So I can't wait to share it with you. Spring is in France. Flowers are in bloom. It's going to be a good year for travel because, for the most part, we're enjoying wonderful weather. At least in Toulouse. I don't know about the rest of France. I don't care about the rest of France when it comes to weather because I'm right here. Do you want to see all the back episodes of the show? Well, you can visit joinusinfrance.com. That's where all the show notes, the photos live, and that's also where you can listen to the show if you want to do it that way. And if you're wondering if we've ever talked about a place you're thinking of visiting, well, the search button is great on joinusinfrance.com, and there are good chances that we've talked about it. And also, if you want to see silly pictures of the things I see in everyday life in France, definitely follow Join Us in France on Facebook. I also post those on Twitter and Instagram, but being the marketing genius that I am, for sure, I have 3 different names on those platforms. So, search for Join Us in France on Facebook, Addicted to France on Instagram, and at Paris Podcast on Twitter. I know. Have a great week of trip planning, and I'll talk to you next week. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2019 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.